Welcome to a Legendarium special about Oceania, the superstate in George Orwell's 1984. In this episode, we will learn about the continent-spanning dictatorship which dominates life in George Orwell's dystopian. George Orwell wrote his iconic novel 1984 at the beginning of the Cold War, when Nazi Germany's terrifying war crimes had come to light. Meanwhile, other heinous crimes took place behind the Iron Curtain created by the Soviet Union. Orwell, himself a democratic socialist, became troubled by how his fellow leftists excused or ignored Soviet atrocities simply because a fellow leftist committed them. To expose the dangers of such thinking on either the right or the left, Orwell wrote 1984. The events of the novel take place in a fictionalized version of London at some unspecified time in the future. Hero Winston Smith believes it is the year 1984, but he does not know for certain. Smith, the hero of 1984, is 39 years old, and his first memories are of his father disappearing and a series of bombings which forced him and his family to seek shelter underground, something that paralleled the London Blitz of 1940. Based on these recollections, the war happened around the year 1950 or 1951. This war likely brought England, now called Airstrip 1, under the control of the Oceanic superstate. This war probably also brought Ingsoc to power, though it is unclear if Ingsoc rules the whole of Oceania, or if it is simply a branch of a larger party state that controls Airstrip 1. Because of the way that Ingsoc controls and rewrites history, much about the world of 1984 is not known for certain. Oceania is one of three world powers, composed of the Americas, the Atlantic Islands, including the British Isles, Australasia, and the southern portion of Africa. The other two world powers are Eastasia, including China, Japan, and parts of Manchuria, Mongolia, and Tibet. This particular state might be inspired by Japan's goal of dominating East Asia during World War II. Finally, Eurasia, composed of the northern part of the European and Asiatic landmass from Portugal to the Bering Strait, is likely inspired by the Soviet Union and the Eastern Bloc. In foreign policy, Oceania is involved in a shifting alliance with the other two powers. By some analyses, the everlasting war is allowed to continue to keep the citizens' attention upon an enemy and justify the party state's existence. At one rally in support of the war against Eurasia, the speaker is forced to change his speech halfway through to point out that Oceania is not, and never has been, at war with Eurasia. Rather, the speaker says Oceania is, and always has been, at war with Eastasia. The people in the rally become embarrassed about carrying anti-Eurasia signs and blame enemy agents for sabotaging them. They show the same unhinged hatred for Eastasia that they did for Eurasia only seconds ago. This episode shows how the state has so corrupted thought that people assume enemies of the state are responsible for any doubt or confusion when it is their own government which has abruptly changed sides. This is called Doublethink in 1984, when people are so indoctrinated that they accept what they are told, even though their senses and their memories tell them otherwise. That particular episode was likely inspired by the Soviet Union's alliance with Nazi Germany in 1939 and 1940, which obviously ended once the Nazis invaded the Soviet Union in 1941. The city of London gives us an idea of how Oceania operates. It is divided between three distinct social groups. The inner party lives in relative comfort with servants and access to luxury goods. The outer party, which Winston belongs to, lives in stark, dilapidated conditions and have very little control over their personal space or property. The lowest social group, the proles, or proletarians, live in poorly maintained slums where the party does not attempt to exert much control. However, the party state also does not provide support or opportunity despite propaganda of how Ingsoc overthrew greedy capitalists who supposedly exploited the people more than 30 years ago. Winston Smith believes that the proles offer the best chance to overthrow Ingsoc because of their relative freedom. Yet Ingsoc and the Thought Police still operate freely in the prole districts. They have agents planted throughout them, and it is unclear if the proles are motivated enough to act since they are busy enough simply trying to stay alive. The technology of Oceania is largely unchanged from the mid-20th century when Orwell wrote the novel. Trucks, machine guns, airplanes, and leg irons are identical to their contemporary counterparts. However, the novel mentions fictional technologies that work to serve Ingsoc rather than the people. Versificators are kaleidoscope-like machines that generate fiction without the need for individual human authors, and obviously all of this fiction serves Ingsoc. Memory holes are slots for depositing papers and other documents so they can be immediately incinerated once they become embarrassing or contradictory to the party. Most famously, the world of 1984 includes the telescreen, which functions as a two-way television. It shows Ingsoc members a constant stream of propaganda while also giving the Thought Police a way to watch every person in the city. Telescreens are, both symbolically and literally, the all-seeing eye of Big Brother and are synonymous with the quote, "Big Brother is watching you." The fact that so much money is invested in things useful to the party state, while so little is put into things for everyday people, shows Ingsoc priorities. O'Brien, the highest-ranking party member met in the book, sums up Ingsoc and Oceania the best. He says, "Imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever." That wraps things up for this episode of The Legendarium. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, press like. If you want to see more, press subscribe. And if you've got anything to say, let me know in the comments section. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope that you have a great rest of the day.